What, no cold open?
That was the cold open, us clapping.
Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-dum. Oh, Wednesday. Welcome to Was It Good, the podcast that reviews movies and TV shows. Today, we're taking a look at the first two episodes of Bad Batch Season 2. I'm Ravi, and as always, I'm joined by my two brothers.
Arjuna.
And Krishna.
And Omega?
No.
There's no Megatron here.
There's
to
no
cosplay
Omega.
as
I'm Omega?
Yeah, I mean, that is a great one-word impression. I know we won't get to them, but that's wonderful.
I start out before we even start taping. Guys, we're not doing one-word impressions. And Krishna's like, you know what? Fuck you. We're going to do a one-word impression.
We're in it to win it.
He's shadow hosting today.
I guess so.
You know,
do you
I've
want to
been
be the
here.
host? Do you want to hear? Here, do you want the iPad? Here you go.
All right.
Yeah,
You shouldn't
get
give
the
that.
hell out
You-
of here.
Don't give it to me. I will do it.
You know, when we first started this pod, we used to alternate hosts.
We should probably go back to that. It's a lot of pressure.
You specifically were like, I want to host this show.
I know because
grabbed
I'm
it by
a
the
control
horns.
freak. So
I thought it was just so you would stay engaged in the show.
Instead of going to sleep.
wait, was there a point where I was not engaged? When
There have been times where if Christian or I would host, you would just like
dip,
dip.
mentally dip.
Yeah. So I
Little
think
drool.
part of the reason you wanted to host was so like you didn't mentally dip.
I mean, that's smart on my part. Well, good for me. Past me. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Pass Ravi.
That would be like, so bringing it back to the pod. So if we were to pick our characters from the Bad Batch, then I would have to be Hunter, because if I'm any other character in that show, I would just dip.
I think you're Wrecker.
Wrecker, though,
He's very one-track mind.
that's true.
Probably does get distracted easily.
Probably.
Likes to blow shit up.
He likes to blow
Who
shit
doesn't?
up,
Who
yeah.
doesn't like to blow shit up?
Tech.
Tech likes to just tell everybody that he's right. And then, like the first two episodes, we got a lot of Tech in the first two episodes,
Yeah.
and a lot of Tech
It's a
kind
tech
of
heavy.
yeah, and Echoes as well.
Yep.
And then Omega also just
Omega?
screwing everything up because she overheard a conversation.
I don't think she screwed anything up. She wanted to get paid.
It's true. She wants that money.
She wanted to get paid.
She did want to get paid. That's true.
Yeah.
That's very
That
true.
was the mission. I mean, technically, she was the one that didn't screw up.
Oh.
yeah, she
Hot
kind of
take.
stayed. She stayed on.
She stayed on. She was ready to risk it all. But I mean, that was the whole point
I
of
think the main
the
mission is
job.
to stay alive. And that's perhaps where, you know.
What's the point of staying alive if you're poor?
That's also
But
very
go
true.
ahead. You know
According
what?
to the Bad Batch.
That's a good point.
Well, that's Hunter's view, or I guess no.
No, Hunter was
Hunter's
against
view
it.
is to stay alive and stay out of the
Yeah.
Empire's way.
The rest of them were
The
like,
rest of
we're
them-
doing it.
yeah.
Yeah.
A little mutiny to start things off, make things a
Much
little
so.
spicy,
Yeah.
right?
The
Is that what's
spicy
happening
batch.
here? You guys trying to take my hosting job?
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
going to do it for the show.
These two little fucks trying to take this away from
All
me.
I have to do is steal this. All of your power is in this iPad.
It is. This iPad has so much power. It has the notes.
It has the notes, yeah. I got those right.
You think we do this
That,
shit off
that reminds me
memory?
that we had a D&D session once where Michael was he was DMing, and then all of a sudden he gets up from his seat and switches with Krishna, and then he's DMing, and I was like, oh my god, and like that was one of the like most surprising moments of my life. And so one day I just expect you guys to switch seats, and Krishna's like, and I'm your host,
Ravi.
Ravi Remco.
But I can find a believable wig with like my typical hairstyle, the little fly.
We're gonna get you a bald cap then.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll just
we have to commit
like
to the bit.
Yeah. We'll switch we'll put it on, switch seats, put on our
Right.
new hairstyles, and
Yeah.
then do it straight.
Yep.
And then John will just be confused.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should also make sure though that because Arjuna, he wears glasses, contacts, to add to the believability of the whole thing, we should make sure that somehow either his glasses are broken or he's not wearing contacts, so he'll
I'll
just
make
do
sure
it
his
blind,
glasses
essentially.
are broken.
Yeah, just punch
Oh
him in
my
the.
God.
We'll punch him in the face.
Yeah.
To
Damn.
start
The night
the.
before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Again?
Boom.
Yeah.
Did someone punch you in the face last night?
Yeah,
Wait, really?
yeah.
Who?
It's not who you think it was either.
Not
It
Sahara.
was Michael.
Oh,
Wow. Uno attack was a little intense.
I guess. I
Michael's
missed
like, you
a good time."
can't win.
Kapow.
That's how it went.
Speaking of Kapow, Bad Batch season 2, the first 2 episodes.
Kapow.
Little time jump?
Yeah.
No time jump?
No, definitely a time jump, right?
Well,
Omega
Yeah.
is clearly older and taller,
she is taller.
so therefore older.
And we
you
know some time has gone by since the finale of season 1 was the destruction of Camino, where and this will come into play later in these episodes, the batch, Unit 99,
Clone Force 99
was according to the Empire killed, right? Which we know their former comrade knew they were alive, but let them kind of go, and was they kind of came to this mutual agreement of, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to
I'm not going to
help
save you.
So it's very James Bond-esque.
Kind
Like
of.
Batman.
Or Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not,
Batman
don't have to
Begins?
save you. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you're my brothers. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to rat you out, but don't expect me to join your team again, essentially.
Right.
So. Yeah. No cross. I mean, that's Crosshair, right?
Crosshair.
No
yeah.
Crosshair appearance in these first 2 episodes, which I thought was very interesting. Because the drama of that first season was Crosshair being on the team, leaving the team, being all Empire, despite he was able to overcome the programming or the flaw. Whatever it was.
They made it worse for him.
They made it
cranked
worse,
up.
but then he also revealed that he's like, I could leave.
He doesn't
I'm
want
not.
to.
Yeah, because they were like, if we took this chip out, and he was like, it's not controlling me. He's just like, this is who I am.
Yeah, he
But
chose that.
Do you think it is it could also just be the chip saying that, right?
No,
Or is
I
the
think,
chip
I
broken
think
for
I
him?
think there's a part of that. I think
Yeah.
a part of that's true in terms of, because he even talked about it, and I think we talked about it on the pod. He feels a little betrayed by this team that they were
Yes.
so quick to take in Omega, so quick to kind of
Betray the Empire.
betray the Empire, to change what they were doing, and he felt betrayed, and
Yeah.
that's part of, I think, his whole view, and I think that's going to be the ethos of the show.
I hope so.
I mean, there was the other big thing with the show where you have Echo talking to Hunter before they start this mission to planet
The heist.
Sereno. The heist gone wrong. Echo was saying we should be doing more than just hiding. We should be helping people.
Yep.
But Hunter's whole thing is, we've got this kid, and the kid deserves a better, childhood and
Yeah.
upbringing. Which is very. I think the main thing there is Hunter is projecting, right? Because I'm sure to a degree he wishes his life was not
Yeah.
basically a.
I think
Cool or
I think
whatever.
if you take the original 5 of the Bad Batch and remove Omega, right? There's this morality line, right?
Mhm.
At one end you have Crosshairs, who is all Empire, and at the other end I think you have Echo, who is all we should go full rebellion and be good. Then you have Hunter right in the middle, who's we should be for ourselves and survive. And then I'm
Independence.
I feel like Tech probably leans a little bit closer to Echo, and Wrecker probably leans a little bit in between Hunter and Crosshair of
So is,
this
Is he just
morality
violent?
line.
is Crosshair
Yeah.
red or blue?
Red. Wait, what?
The Empire would be red, right?
yeah, the
Yeah.
Empire. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
red
then-
lightsaber. That's what I assume.
Yeah.
I'm talking politics.
Oh God.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. I didn't pick up on that.
Wait a second. I think wait.
I just went straight to the lightsaber colors.
Yeah, but the lightsabers are red and blue.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Were they those colors because of? Wow, George Lucas, genius.
I don't.
He's a genius, I say.
I mean, there's also green lightsabers.
Oh my God! Now it's the Green Tea Party.
And there's yellow lightsabers, there's purple lightsabers,
orange ones,
I'm
yeah.
trying to think-
White
I'm trying to
lightsabers?
think of other politics.
There's a dark saber?
Political parties.
Purple.
What are the political parties? Are there? There's the
the Green
Tories.
Party?
Is that a thing?
That's an England political party.
Right, but they're more
At Parliament.
conservative, right?
Well, there's the Conservatives and there's the Tories.
Oh,
and there's
okay.
Something at the Labor Party. I don't know enough. about
Anyway,
British
yeah, let's just
politics.
move on from that. Right, so we go to this planet Sereno, which was revealed to be where Dooku's castle is
And where he grew up as a young lad,
as a young
old man.
yes. So
He was always an old man.
So I think it's also kind of interesting that the last anime thing that we got before this was Tales of the Jedi, which heavily focused on Dooku.
Yeah,
And then this comes swinging out, and we're going to Dooku's castle, and we're learning that Dooku basically destroyed his people.
yeah.
Good for him.
Which is interesting, right? Because Tales of the Jedi really painted Dooku as a little bit more of a sympathetic figure. The original, the prequel trilogy was just kind of Jedi gone bad. He's a bad guy. And I think Tales of the Jedi really tried to show this is why he went bad. And there were legitimate things of him to kind of be swayed by. And then this kind of swung. And what's interesting about this is you're just hearing perspective of people about Dooku, right? Dooku's obviously dead at this point. we have no idea if how much of this is true or whatnot. But like the people that are there are like, yeah, fuck Dooku, and then like he has this castle with all of his gold and stuff. So bad luck for him if he's like
stealing from his own people,
and then like having this greed. But maybe there's more to that as well.
Well, he is a count, allegedly. So
Is that why? So when you join the dark side, you get like a Darth or a Count in front of your name.
Oh, I assumed he was always a count, but maybe
and then you also get a castle because like Vader has a castle on Mustafar, like Mustafar, and then technically you could argue that Maul, another Sith Lord, created his castle via
Syndicate.
the Syndicate and stuff, and like. So is that like a thing?
You
get a big...
Papa Palpatine created his own in space called a Death Star.
He created 2.
Yeah.
3 if you really think about it.
There's the whole Exegol thing from those great movies.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, it sounds like a good idea to join the dark side.
If you want your own castle and your own
if you're looking for property,
dark side
is for you.
Dark side's where you go.
Yeah.
Property values through the roof.
Yeah.
Castles for everybody.
You get a title. you get a title.
You get a title bump. Big ass title bump.
And you get property.
And you get property.
And generally you get an army too.
Dude, yeah, you get your own personal fucking guard.
Yeah.
Oh my, and then
money.
So you're saying it's a better resume builder.
Yeah.
It's better for your individual success.
Your portfolio.
Right. I don't see any reason to not be on the dark side.
Is the dark side capitalism?
Wow.
The capitalist dream.
I think it is.
And the light side is
Socialism?
Socialism?
Oh, fuck. I don't know.
Everything is shared. We all live in the woods.
I mean, yeah, basically. They live in a temple together. They're told what they can and can't eat. I don't know.
The Ewoks.
If you think about the Jedi, this is a little weird. They abduct kids when they're young. They don't really abduct them. They ask the parents, allegedly. And then they take the kids and then make the kids cut off like most of the family ties. Do the Jedi? Do we know if like the Jedi, when they take the kids, do you think money is exchanged?
Probably. I bet if you like dig deep into potentially the fall of the Jedi, which is most of Star Wars, right? Mm-hmm. Of the proper movies and whatnot. It's like there's a lot of factors that resulted in their fall, right? Like there's corruption, their gravitas. They became basically generals in armor in a war with armies. So potentially, I'm sure there are a lot of corrupt Jedis who were like, yeah, pay me something.
Make a buck on the side.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. The whole thing is really
It's all rigged from the beginning.
Yeah. Rigged to blow. But the Bad Batch, we're outside of the Jedi. Now,
that's not true. That's not true. Because from trailers, we know that we're going to see some Jedis in this season.
I actually didn't see a trailer for this second season,
we're going to see
thanks for ruining it.
2 particular Jedi.
Who?
Do you remember the Padawan episode of Clone Wars when Ahsoka takes the Padawans to get
Chewie?
Not
the Chewie, but I did see a trailer.
The
Wookiee.
The Wookiee. Thank you. The Wookiee, who is a Padawan.
Green lightsaber.
We do see in the trailer him. And then also, I believe young Kanan, shows up
again
at some point. Yeah, in this.
Voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr.
Voiced by Freddie.
Yes.
It is.
Wait, really? The kid?
Why not?
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't know this?
Are you lying? I can't tell.
I believe it's I think it's public.
He just did that Netflix Christmas movie, which was terrible.
Which one?
I forget. It was just like one.
Not the Lindsay Lohan one.
There's a different one.
I'm sorry. Netflix made 2 Christmas movies?
Multiple Christmas movies.
Wow.
They weren't
weird.
So, wait, real quick. We're talking about Dooku, and me and Ravi, and I want to know who else had the same reaction when we see the old guy on Sereno. Mm-hmm. Is that Dooku's brother?
No, I think here's my headcanon.
His cousin?
Here's my headcanon. All the people
His son
are just old men. Right?
Sereno.
He's the
people
only
are
one
old.
we
If we
saw
go back
on
and we
this
watch
planet.
Tales of the Jedi, like they showed the young Dooku, but they're gonna retroactively change it to be like
An
old
old?
young Dooku. So like he's still an old man.
So they have all the Benjamin Button disease.
yeah, they're all old.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I'm gonna stick to it. That's my theory. I'm locking it in. Can't change it.
Is that your bold prediction?
No, that's just
Okay.
headcanon.
That's headcanon.
Yeah, there's no question to me. That's how it is.
Looking at the episode, like in general, we got 2 episodes. Obviously, the first episode ends on a cliffhanger, so very happy that it ended. We got the 2, so that you don't have to wait a week or whatever.
Yes.
Total, it's going to be 16 episodes.
Yeah.
This is running up against going into March. ending. I think it's mid-March or whatever.
Like that.
And we know Mando season 3 is coming out then as well. So I don't know if there's gonna be some kind of weird crossover. Most likely not a crossover thing, but maybe there's some kind of connective tissue there.
I don't think it's just gonna be a crossover. They're gonna break continuity
They do that all the time.
just to fuck with us.
I mean, that's Star Wars as a whole.
Yep.
Just breaks continuity everywhere.
We'll see Grogu in this show, and then he'll die.
That doesn't even make sense.
Juna's like lost his marbles,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But where do you guys like think the show? We've got 14 more episodes. These two are very much kind of just reintroducing what's happening, and then
Well, I think there's some interesting. I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's one very interesting development at the end of
Very
the
end of it,
second
yeah.
episode, and that's like as we just talked about a little while ago. The Empire thinks that this group is dead, right? And the clone commander in charge of the operation,
Captain Wilco
reports this back to his general, who is or admiral, or
I believe he's a
forget the
general.
rank.
He's not an admiral.
Who we know from season 1, the same guy who was kind of chasing them around. And it's like, hey, these guys are alive. And he's like, well,
At least 2 of them, yeah.
yeah. It's like, well, people can't know that, so
Yeah.
falsify the report. And this clone being a good clone, it's like, I can't do that. And he's like, I know. But he shoots him and he's dead.
And he falls off of the freaking...
Yeah, probably the darkest part of the whole, especially when the 2 episodes is like a whole year. There are reports where it's very kiddie like, right? Like
It invoked our producer to say, and this is a children's show?
This is a children's
question mark?
kids need to know the hardships of the Empire.
Kids need to know. Okay.
Kids just need to know.
The horrors of war.
Never turn your back.
Yeah, don't turn your back and don't say something stupid.
Especially if you're a clone.
Keep it in.
Yeah,
just be
just
like,
hold it
yeah,
in.
whatever you want, and then do
Yep.
the opposite.
Yeah, very dark.
But yeah, where do we think it's going though in general? Any ideas?
Well, I think that's a big part of where the show is going, right? Like the group is coming head to head more with the Empire. We obviously saw it at the end of season 1. With season 2 now, knowing like some characters know that they are alive. I think Christian had mentioned Crosshairs. Like I think that's going to be a big part too. And even if
I hope so.
Crosshair doesn't want to be a part of it, it's going to be quickly figured out that he lied about them being killed by this general, right? So like, what does that do with his positioning within the Empire? Does he need to like go back to the Bad Batch? Do they need to save him? Does he not want to be saved? Does he just go and do his own thing? And what does that mean for the Batch themselves, right? It seems like they've settled in nicely to working with Sid and doing these missions and stuff. But even she mentioned at the top of the first episode, like, hey, this isn't going to continue very long. Like the Empire is really starting to, because we're the early days of the Empire, and they're really putting their fist on the galaxy. And so, like, this stuff is going to end. So I think we'll see.
Well, remember when
Yeah.
when that same scene where Sid's talking about that, we're introduced to a new pirate character. So I'm pretty sure Sid already kind of said it for us. We know that the Empire's going to come to that planet, shut that operation down. They're going to have to work with this pirate.
And
Hondo.
our favorite
probably
pirate
show
is
up.
going to show up, Hondo.
I mean, if the pirates are involved, he's going to show
Hondo
up.
has to show up.
Right. And we're going to quickly realize that Hondo is like an R2-D2 in the sense that they interact with every single character in all corners of the Star Wars universe.
I find fascinating is if you go to Disneyland and you go on to the Millennium Falcon ride, Hondo is like the main character on that ride. Like he owns the like operating company on the ride when you go on and work for it. And I was like kind of shocked that they put that in.
Is that
a
right?
Disney
Supposed to be
ride.
canon? Does anyone
Even
know?
if it's not, right? The
Yeah.
fact that in your Star Wars land on one of your 2 main rides, you're
have
putting
this
this like
character.
character
from the Clone Wars.
who's from animated shows there shows that you have enough confidence that even if people aren't familiar with the show, it's a popular enough character where you can like put him and have him be like
Make that
a
personality
main
work
thing.
for the ride.
And so it's like
Yeah.
I think clear that Disney as a whole is like very invested in this character and like
so
he's not gonna like show up in Bad Batch and die.
right.
He's gonna show up in Bad Batch and then show up in like 300 other things. Like could he show up in Mandalorian?
Most likely, because the ride takes place during the sequel era,
Yeah.
right? Like the entire Batu Star Wars line is supposed to be all of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is, when you look at Star Wars line, it's interesting because that was always the big thing. Is like this land takes place between episodes like 7 and 8, right? And since the release of Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and those 2 shows in particular, you have Fennec walking around. you have Boba Fett walking around, you have the Mandalorian walking around, which is 15, 20 years before the events of Batu. So it's kind of it's interesting because that land is very much confused, I think.
Yes.
In terms of when it takes place.
If you go to Disneyland, it's a little confused sometimes.
It is.
No, you just go with a swell bottle, fill it with some alcohol, and spin around, throw up on the floor.
We do Disney.
Excuse
differently.
me? Throwing a couple of companies on the bus
you
here.
get sugar high, I get drunk.
I don't get sugar high.
Trina, how much candy do you eat at Disneyland?
Honestly, not
I
that much.
imagine, the candy store on Main Street? I imagine you go in there,
Just
you're
rate it.
skipping, and you're just like, I'm getting all the candies.
He has a little shopping cart. He just
Yeah.
fills it up. And
I'm
it's
not a
like,
big
"Stop
candy
that."
guy. I'm a chocolate guy and an
Yeah,
ice cream guy.
Candy is
There's
chocolate.
plenty of chocolate and ice cream in
Yeah, but I don't
Star
get
Wars
chocolate
land. I
there.
mean, Disney.
I will
Next
only
time-
get ice cream.
Next
at
time we go to Disneyland, to, all together,
to keep
I'm
time.
going to buy ridiculous, all the little cakey things and chocolates and make you eat it all.
I'm not gonna eat it all.
And then put you on the spinny rides.
Please
Oh
don't.
God. Projectile vomit everywhere.
We have to close this round down. A male adult in his 30s threw up on it.
I think I ate too much.
He was on
candy.
where's it, the merry-go-round?
I think I'm gonna be back.
So looking at, ahead for season 2, like what do you need to see to make you say at the end of the season, this was a good season?
It needs to be good. That's my qualifier.
Wow, that was really well thought out, Arjuna. Let me
think-
just write that down.
Yeah. It needs
Just
to be good.
Good job, buddy.
It needs to
Thank
be
you.
good.
Thank you.
I think for me, I've already said it. alluded to it.
bad.
Hulk bad. Yeah, Hulk needs to be bad. Crosshair needs to be a significant part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Crosshair was given a very interesting position within the Empire in season 1, which was training the new stormtroopers, the non-clone stormtroopers. If that continues, if he continues in that role, that would set him up to be a very pivotal figure for the whole conflict. That means all the stormtroopers, how bad they are at aiming, how them always hitting their heads, you could directly blame on Crosshair. Now, we need to know if this Crosshair ends up being the full-time trainer. Did he train them poorly out of loyalty, perhaps, to his team? Or is he just a terrible trainer? Or is he not the trainer at all and he's going to die in this season? They give the job to someone of lesser quality.
Ooh, lesser quality.
But Crosshair I thought was the most interesting part of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still the most interesting part of the team. Everyone else is, they're pretty straightforward in their motivations and their needs and desires, and Crosshair was the most complicated. So I need him in this show. At least 4 episodes.
I mean, I feel
Like
like
that would be
yeah.
shocked if he wasn't.
yeah.
in
If he's in like 3 episodes,
That's
then
If he's
weird.
on 3, I'm going to be pissed. If he's in 4, I'll be happy.
I'll give you $1 if he's in 3 episodes.
Oh, thank you. To make me feel better?
Mhm.
Oh, perfect.
at least
At least a quarter of this season.
Quarter.
At least a quarter.
Quarter. All right,
Because if you
quarter.
remember, he disappears for a large middle part of season
Season
1.
one,
He's
yeah.
in the beginning, he's in the end. That middle part,
he's
not
in a couple episodes in the middle, but it's not a main focus. He's in a couple of the units that kind of confront the batch,
Oh, okay. So, yeah, you're
but
right.
he's not a focus of
Yeah,
those.
I need focused.
And then,
episodes.
like in the last arc, that's when, or like it's like not the middle, but it's like middle end. That's when he gets burned and stuff. Like when they have the mining
Yes.
thing. That was a great episode.
yeah,
That's when he was
Bring
real
back-
angry.
bring back Crosshair.
I'll get a T-shirt made.
Thank
Or
you.
a red hat. How about that?
Yeah,
Christian- okay.
click, clack, Jar Jar, and Crosshair. Those are my 3 guys.
Rank
right
them.
there.
Rank them. Marry, fuck, kill. Go.
No,
That's not ranking.
I married them all.
Ravi, what's your qualifier?
Qualified this season.
Hondo must show up in 16 of the 16 episodes.
Well, so what do you, Alex? What do you failed then?
So this is going to be a weird one.
Good.
Like they all are. But, watching a really good show like Andor, it's really kind of put a good perspective on like what makes good Star Wars content. And now I know that like between the animated and the, live action one, the live action shows, when it done well, do a really good job with the world building, i.e. Andor. While the animated shows with animation and everything, they do a ridiculously good job of like the personalized individual characters, right? And like Bad Batch, I think season 1 very clearly showed us all these individual characters, both in the good and the bad, and really kind of brought them to life, right? Even though they're animated and made you give a flying fuck about them. I think we're going to naturally get that in season 2 because they know what they're doing. So what I would want to see in addition to that is I want to see more world building. Like, I really want to see more of Clone War, or I guess Republic Army transition to an actual empire, right? Like, we see in Andor what the Empire is becoming through like the spyscape, but now with animation and the fact that you could do like much bigger battles and things, like I really want to see a better transition of like how the Empire is really putting their foot down. We know that it's not just a simple bunch of troopers walk in and like shoot a bunch of people. We know that
badly miss
or whatever. We know that there has to have been like massive space battles for planets that were just like, fuck you, get out. And I want to see like that type of stuff.
Like some of this fringe war stuff.
Right.
That just sparked a thought.
Sure.
So Christian had just mentioned Crosshair, I kind of forgot about this. It was training the non-clone recruits.
Right.
We know Crosshair is a very good shot. Canonically, we know that Stormtroopers are a very bad shot.
Mm-hmm.
That means Crosshair probably is not the long-term teacher.
I'm guessing you miss part of what I said.
Yeah, you just based on what he said.
Probably.
Yeah,
yep.
I mentioned that. I mentioned how
almost
it'd be interesting to see
that.
Yeah, he's either there's 3 possibilities, right? He isn't the long-term trainer. He's a really bad trainer. Or he's a trainer that still feels loyalty to his team.
I do remember that part. I just forgot you, or I, for some reason didn't hear you say the part of them being bad shots.
And they say that I space on these podcasts.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It's good to know that it's not just me.
I just had a thought.
One time in 200 episodes.
I just had a thought. What if Crosshair is the trainer? No, I'm
I thought you were going to tie
me.
Crosshairs into like, along the lines of like space, the battles and everything, seeing all the fringe planets or whatever, that we see Crosshairs become like a fighter pilot instructor for some reason.
Yeah.
And then we get a Top Gun episode.
Well, actually, but the other thought I had in terms of the world building and, this being close to the Andor timeline as well, right? Obviously, this is quite a few years before.
Probably like 10.
Yeah, but like if they continue to do more time jumps, like how would you feel if we start to see some of the Andor characters kind of within the Bad Batch, the Luthans, right?
I was thinking that.
Like we know Luthan in Andor at the very least has been doing this for
a
long time.
Have I told you my ultimate Star Wars theory?
Yes.
Luthan is
no. It's actually super simple.
Andor survives.
It's super simple. We are going to get so much Star Wars content for the rest of our lives that every single animated character that you've ever seen, you'll see a live action version. And every single live action Star Wars character you've ever seen or been introduced to, you will see an animated version.
It's easier to do the latter, for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Way easier than the former.
Yeah.
The former is like a much bigger deal. And then also you have to think of like
casting.
Yeah. But I still think like we know that like they're going to have Star Wars for like ever, right? So at some point, and they've picked their 2 mediums, right? Live action and animated. So it's impossible not to think that like we'll see an animated Luthen at some point. Whether it's
in Bad Batch?
Maybe not Bad Batch, but maybe whatever the
next.
But
what if we saw like a younger Luthen, right? Before we see the Luthen of Andor, like 10 years before, whatever he's up to at this time.
I hope we do, so that he can look super young, and then we can be like, why does he look so young in Bad Batch? And then how did he age so poorly? Because that was a really good video for
us.
Trying
to replicate our success.
Yeah,
you got to replicate success.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
So it's beautiful.
And then that brings me to another question. How, like, Bad Batch is interesting, right? It's kind of like the unofficial sequel to Clone Wars, which, as we know, ran for a lot of seasons, over a lot of years with some breaks in there. How long would you want Bad Batch to run?
3 seasons.
4 seasons?
I would say 3 would be great, 4 at the most.
I think 3 is always like the perfect number. Like those crazy Brits figured this out whenever, like a long time ago with television. You keep them 10 to 12 episode seasons, or 10 to 12 episode seasons, and then you do only 3 seasons.
Right.
Because you do an introductory, you do the main arc, and then like some kind of wrap up, and you still end on a cliffhanger just to piss everybody off.
For spin-offs.
Well, they rarely do spin-offs.
I think there's a Luther sequel coming.
Well, Luther they to me for the Luther series with Idris Elba, I think they fucked up because they've done too many seasons. Like it should have ended at season 3.
How many seasons have they done?
5.
Oh, so they broke their own formula.
Yes.
I see.
Well,
Yeah.
some of them are technically a movie. I think that's what's coming.
Whoa,
I still
weird.
have to watch that show.
Yeah, same.
I mean, if you want to see bad cops gone badder, then yes.
Oh man.
So bad cop.
So Batter Batch. Is that what Luther is?
That will be the
Batter
spin-off.
Batch?
Batter Batch. I think
Batter
but
Batch.
I think 3 seasons will be good, and then the thing when you're watching, I think the thing that's always like difficult when watching Star Wars animated shows is you're introduced to these characters and you're like, oh, these characters are so cool, et cetera, and then you sit there and you're like, but do you survive like all the way up until the end? Like, we know that Star Wars goes up until some crazy person takes some lightsabers and buries them on Tatooine for some.
Well, a lot of our
reason.
recent Star Wars has been
That's
in
where it
that
ends.
like episode 3-4 range, right? You've
Right.
had Obi-Wan, Andor, Bad Batch. So like they're really mining this
Period. Yeah.
post prequel, pre-original trilogy area. And yeah, it's tough because it's like, what is the current timeline of Star Wars? Like, are they ever actually going to build off of post episode 9? When does that come? Like, that seems like a territory no one's really touching right now. So then, like, we know the Mandoverse is like between 6 and 7, which is like its own thing. So then, like, you have this stuff, and then there's like prequel stuff, which is being mined in like books, right now. So
The High Republic.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting of like where, like, how much more, I guess, how many more stories can you tell in this like 15-year time area?
I think you're going to see. I think you're going to like this animation style, like the Clone Wars animation style, and these stories. I think will continue for a while.
Yeah.
Like, I think whenever the Bad Batch does come to an end, and you are like, what's the next thing? It will not necessarily be a direct like sequel, if you will, to like the Bad Batch or whatever. I think it will be, we're now going to follow X, Y, and Z in the galaxy during this period, because the galaxy is big. There are other stories to tell.
Sure.
The greatest thing I think about the Bad Batch is the fact that there is no Vader, there is no Luke, there is no Jedi or Sith thing. It's a group of foot soldiers gone bad in the eyes of the Empire. Right. And that's a more interesting story than like what we've gotten in years past. So I think it's going to continue for a while, and then they'll figure out their next period. Like they're really, like with the Mandoverse, they're really milking those periods between the trilogies.
Yeah.
Because again, I think that stuff makes the trilogies more interesting.
Yeah. Well, right now, yeah, specifically between
Yeah.
the original and the sequel trilogy,
Yeah.
because that's where that is.
Right. And then the animated stuff is really focusing on that between 3 and 4 period.
Yeah.
So
And even some of the live action, right? Andor, Obi-Wan.
yeah, and yeah. We're finally getting into that with live action as well. But yeah, I don't think we'll ever until that's why it's interesting when you look at the sequel trilogy. All you really have is 7, 8, and 9. You have books that talk about post. I think there is like one book, maybe.
Post episode 9?
I think so, but don't quote me.
I feel like they're just waiting for, like, that's the next movie stuff, right? And it's just on hold right now. And so they're just like, nope, we're not going to really touch, like, what's post episode 9. And, like, these shows can kind of flesh out some of the stuff. I think, like we've talked about on this pod before, these shows do a good job of adding context to these 9 movies and, like, making them more enjoyable. And I think they're hopeful, like, the Mandoverse, potentially with the Snoke stuff and everything, can really kind of like maybe make that sequel trilogy pop a little bit more with some like retroactiveness and adding some details and whatnot, much like Clone Wars did. Right?
They can go in and animate Grogu in some of those movies, the sequel movies. He's just like in a ship.
Hey,
flying.
if George was still involved with the the movies, we would have at least 5 different cuts of all these movies for by now that like added full characters and
More Force ghosts.
Yeah, Palpatine would have been in episode 7. It wouldn't have been Snoke ever. It was just Palpatine.
It was Palpatine
It was
all along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go back.
I didn't do my qualifier.
Oh yeah, you never did. Whoops. Yeah, let's do Arjuna's qualifier first.
That was good.
Well, that's a great decision by you.
Thank you.
Came up with independently.
You have 2 seconds, and then I move on.
Wow.
I've moved on.
I look at the show a lot like Clone Wars, and I think like the thing that really hooked me onto Clone Wars in season 2 was the introduction of like memorable new characters. So like Cad Bane. I think they brought back Boba Fett in like season 2, like young kid Boba Fett. So who wasn't a new character, but like adding another dimension to like existing characters. And so that kind of similar to yours with the world building. I'm going that direction, but more with characters in terms of introducing new and interesting characters and like building on some like previous characters.
So that's why you mentioned Luthen.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I always, what I really love about the animated shows, and I think what they can do better than the live action shows, is just add new dimensions and stories to like existing characters, right? Like, I mean, that's how we brought back Darth Maul in Clone Wars. You're able to bring him back and add a whole new dimension and lore to him, right? So like I'd love to see that here with like just some prequel characters who aren't necessarily, you know, you're kind of unsure of where they're at and whatnot, and especially if they get more involved with opposing the Empire and maybe with some of these like early rebellion cells. Like there's going to be a lot of opportunities for them to run into. And I'm not talking about like, I want to see Ahsoka again. Like, no, I do like Ahsoka as a character a lot, but like she can't show up in everything, right?
Oh, Dave Filoni says she can, and she probably will.
But I want to see like some of these other characters, right? Like I think it's cool that we're gonna see like the Wookiee Jedi, for example, and like flesh out that character because that was an interesting arc in Clone Wars.
He had like a tree carved lightsaber, right?
Yeah,
which is so cool.
Yeah,
I agree. That would be sweet.
So that's my qualifier.
But as long as it doesn't take too much away from Crosshair, we can let you.
The US is only for you to qualify. So if he shows up in just 4 episodes,
he's got to be the focus of 4 episodes.
Oh wow,
the focus. Like he needs to be like, you know,
the main character of that episode.
Yeah,
or at
least a co-lead or the main antagonist.
So as we go through the season, you should keep a running list of the episodes where you feel like
I will,
he is the main
like.
focus.
I'll count his lines.
Yeah,
like it needs to be 50% or 30%. You know, 30% other characters or whatever. But
yeah. All right, let's take a look at bold predictions that we made.
These are hilarious. I like Ravi's the most.
These are bold predictions that we made after the first season of Bad Batch. And these bold predictions are what we thought we were going to see in season 2. Obviously, the season's not done, so these things still may happen.
Yeah.
But we can take a quick peek to see what we got, and we'll start with Krishna's. And Krishna said, "We will see prototype Snoke. We won't know it's Snoke. It's Omega."
I don't remember. So I think it has something to do with Camino.
There's the episode where Omega runs into some of the clones.
Yes. Right. Yeah, and I got the feeling that because Camino was so heavily involved in season 1, and we know from the sequel trilogy that Palpatine's trying to clone himself. It seems implied that or confirmed that Snoke is a Palpatine clone or something. So, and we're dealing with the Bad Batch. There are a bunch of clones. There are a bunch of mutated clones or whatever. So it just seems like, why wouldn't they, you know, it'd be a missed opportunity in my mind for them not to run into something to do with cloning the Emperor and, you know, Snoke.
That was a really cool episode, too, because that was the Fennec versus Boba, or Fennec versus Cad Bane episode.
Yes.
And then we were like, oh, cool, they're both in Book of Boba. We'll see that resolved. And then they, you know.
It was shit.
They didn't. They actually never interacted with
They never interacted.
Yeah. That's because Fennec was shooting up.
That's right, yeah.
People.
Yeah.
You know, where she should have done in the beginning. Whatever.
What a great show.
Dumb show.
Let's not ruin this.
My bold prediction was Michael forgot to type this. Sorry.
What do you think it was?
I mean, we could just go back to the pod and listen.
I would rather have you like.
Let's search the memory bank.
Like, you know.
I have no idea.
Re-remember.
I have no idea.
Luke Skywalker.
I think it was something to do with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I think it was something to do with Boba Fett, either showing up or mentioned or something of that nature. Arjun has said, We will get death. Tech is dead. Echo. Named a base after him, or he is the base. Transformers.
I do love the idea of Echo Base being named after Echo. That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Wait, which one is Echo Base?
Hoth, I think.
Is that Hoth?
I believe it. I think Echo Base is the one on Hoth. I'm gonna look that up.
You know what? I mean, this is a. I mean, I don't want this to be my bold prediction for season 2, but
Yes, it is Hoth.
I think one of the saddest things that will probably end up happening with Echo. So you remember,
He's dead.
Echo was originally, a clone trooper. They thought he died in the
Under
Clone
Rex,
Wars,
right?
Under Rex, and the Separatists captured him and then plugged his brain into a machine
Cut
in
his
order
hand
to
off.
Yeah, all this torture.
He's part android.
He's part Android.
Cyborg,
I
yeah.
think that same fate awaits him in the future, and I think it's gonna be done like the rebellion, and they're not gonna do it in like a malice, or like malicious type of way or anything. I think it's gonna be more like he's either injured in such a way, and this is the best use for him, and or to keep him alive. But I think he's gonna end up being like he is the thing that helps the rebellion with their tactics and planning and stuff, which is depressing, but also kind of like, well, okay.
Did you guys, when we were watching episode 2 specifically, and Tech was kind of surrounded, did you guys like have a thought or like, oh, they might kill Tech here or something? Like there was like a brief moment,
Yeah,
where I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna like kill one of them, and maybe it's Tech because he's been such a focus of these like episodes and
Behind the
everything.
tree.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like he's being surrounded, and
I didn't get that impression, but I could see why.
yeah,
And honestly, if that had happened, I would have been totally shocked.
yeah.
Like, oh
Would
my
you-
god.
Do you think you would have
Episode
teared up?
2. I
would've
don't
been-
think I would have teared up, but I would have been absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
Just like,
I do think it's coming. Like, I don't think the show can end with just all the Bad Batch riding into like
The sunset.
the sunset. Like, I think Star Wars doesn't always provide, like, rarely provides the clean, happy ending. In fact, it's normally the opposite. Like, everybody, well, not everybody, but like a lot of people die. There's a lot of suffering, and there might be some success, but at the cost, there's always a loss.
sacrifice.
So I do feel like the only character that's really safe is Omega, and then like everybody else I think is pretty much on the table to.
I think it's a
perish at some
combo of
point.
Omega and Hunter.
Well, it would be very.
I think Hunter actually might be the prime person to
Yeah,
die.
he'll die in the last episode
Yeah.
to save
Saving
Omega.
Do you think they'll do it Rogue
But they
One
won't
style?
do it quick. But what?
Do you think they'll do it Rogue One style where it's like every main character dies slowly until the very
The
end?
Batch.
Yeah.
Ooh.
In a final battle, that'd be
Yeah.
sick.
I wonder if they
What a
do
way
it
to
kind of
go.
like Rebel style, right? Where it's like they didn't kill everyone, but like Kanan dies like halfway through the last season, and then like Ezra doesn't die, but he basically leaves
Sacrifices
everyone and
himself.
sacrifices himself.
Thrawn as well.
Yeah, and then like
Great
the rest
deal.
of the
The real
characters are
hero.
left. I do think some of the batch will survive. Like I don't think they'll kill all of them, because that just seems too clean. And it's been done before, right? Like Rogue One, like they all died. So I do think some of them will survive and go on. But I do think like Hunter seems a prime one. Echo seems like a prime candidate for sure.
And maybe the rest will live.
Yeah, I feel like
Like
Wrecker.
Tech and Wrecker.
Yeah,
sound like
we'll
that would
kind
be.
of like.
Well,
live
then
on.
let's
Kinda
get
like
into it. Let's hear like bold predictions then.
For this season?
For this season, for Bad Batch season 2, bold predictions.
Go ahead, Christian. You seem like primed and ready to go.
I'm not at all.
And like you've really been thinking about this and putting a lot of thought and time into it.
As usual, I had not. But I'm gonna wing it like I usually do.
Love it.
Let's see. So we're on the second season of the Bad Batch.
Jesus
What
Christ.
do I
We've been
think
talking about this for
is
43
going to happen the rest of
Junior,
this
do you have
season?
one ready to go?
Yeah, I'll continue. I mean, I know you guys always make fun of me when I do this as my bold prediction.
Oh my
and I haven't done it in a while. But
You haven't. You haven't. It's true,
and
actually.
I think this is
about-
fair.
it's about
and I
time.
think it's bold because like it's a team and they are the main characters.
And it's also a kid's show.
Yeah, I do think one of the Bad Batch.
Name him. Name the character.
I'm
Go
gonna,
bold.
I'm gonna go bold. I'm gonna go Hunter will die.
Wow.
At the end of this season.
Holy
and if
shit.
they do, if it's a 3-season arc, the third season will be like this weird.
Yeah.
We're without our leader, and Omega has to step up as the leader.
Mm.
And I think that's the arc because I think like this show, as much as it is about the whole team, like is also about this Omega character and her coming into her own. She starts off as the rookie and the novice in season 1. What we see in these first 2 episodes, like she's more with it. She's more on her own. She's like dangling off a ship. She's very capable. She can hold her own. And I think the evolution of the show, if it's a 3-season arc, is her becoming the leader that they need. And the only way for that to happen is Hunter is out of the picture somehow, and I think it will be him dying, him sacrificing himself.
I think it also makes sense. Like in the first couple of scenes, we see that she's also training.
Yep.
Or like she's also like learning, right, about like imperial. Like she's basically like in school with tech and like learning all the imperial vehicles, what they can do, what they can't do, and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that makes sense that she would naturally become the leader of the group. What if and or when Hunter pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
You finally got your bold
I
prediction?
think I do. So, and I'm just gonna continue off of the Snoke thing.
Snoke.
Omega means, I'm gonna just pull it up here. The beginning and the end, the most important part or core idea of something.
Jesus Christ.
I think her DNA is pivotal for Snoke and or Palpatine being cloned successfully.
So she's part of the plan.
I think she's part of the plan, and I think this season will involve, a significant part of it will be her getting captured, and then the Empire drawing blood out of her, doing what the Empire does, shady shit.
I'm gonna take your bold prediction even further.
Do it. That's what we're here for, baby.
That's what we do. So she gets captured by the Empire. The season ends. Gets captured by the Empire. She looks over, and you see a unconscious like Grogu, because we know that the Empire has Grogu at some point, taking Grogu's blood for cloning purposes, whatever. And I think their paths will cross under some kind of like Imperial place.
I'm going to take yours one further.
Ooh, love it.
It'll be Grogu, but his nameplate will say Alpha. Boom.
Fuck.
I'm just kidding.
I don't even. I don't hate that. That's kind of fucking cool.
I'll take it one step further, and then we realize Alpha is the original Grogu, and the Grogu that's walking around with Mando is actually a clone.
Beta.
And that's why his memory is incomplete.
And Alpha,
Boom!
And then Alpha Grogu gets
fuck yeah.
turned into an android who gets sent to the planet Earth and becomes the
What?
robot
What the fuck?
butler
Now you've just-
of Zordon, and that's how Power Rangers starts.
An Echo is Luke Skywalker's clone.
Oh boy. Well,
George-
I liked where that was going up until went off the rails.
Arjuna, you took it off the rails.
I mean, Alpha,
No,
that part was great.
I like. And then I like the part that the Grogu that's walking around is actually a clone.
Yeah.
And then I like Christian's whole thing of like the memories are incomplete because he's not actually his memories.
Then him
Wait.
going to Earth and becoming
so
Alpha
weird.
to Zordon is where you
that
destroyed
would
it.
be fucking
That was
insane.
great.
what if we actually nailed it? What if this is all
I
right?
would hate that because I don't want I like the mystery box.
I
thing.
would
We've
love
done
it.
200 plus episodes where we've thrown out some of the most ridiculous theories.
Yeah.
We got to hit once.
Yeah, that's true. I love it for my ego, but like Ravi, I hate it for my sense of
Story.
story
Yeah.
or disbelief or being surprised.
What if we get a call from Dave Filoni right now? He's like, you got to pull that clip. Right
You got to pull that fucking
You never
clip
hear
down.
from any of us ever again.
Yeah, Dave
Just
Filoni
because
looks
of
like a
that.
guy who never
They
swears.
give us like a nice little tidy sum. I'm like, quiet.
Shut the
Yeah,
fuck up.
I will take this and never speak of it again.
Would you take, like, if somebody was like, here is, I don't know, a monthly, tax-free lump sum of money, like, I don't know, $5,000 a month for the rest of your life because you nailed it in terms of, like, the Grogu.
I would
and-
take that in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Yeah, fuck
But
yeah.
you could never, ever do another pod or talk about Star Wars in a public setting again.
But I'm getting $5,000 a month for the rest of my life.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I'm
I
done.
would
I
counter,
retire
I would
from
counter and
podcasting.
be like, I want that, but now I also, because I've proven myself to be so
Ooh, that's good.
so good with Star Wars, I want to be part of a Star Wars.
You wanna be in the
creative
writing
team.
room.
I want
There
to be
you go.
writing something.
There you go.
Doing something.
See, that I like.
VP of
Yeah.
content.
If I can't
for
talk
Star
about
Wars.
it, I want to make it, and I've proven myself.
I want Kathleen Kennedy's job.
No,
With that, not-
definitely don't want that job ever.
That would blow. That would be so insane if. That'd
Yeah,
crazy.
that'd be great.
That would be
Fuck
crazy.
yeah. Actually, but here's the counter argument is that a lot of people have a problem with the animated shows because they're like that for kids. I just want to focus on the core stuff.
Right.
You lose a lot of fans. So if they reveal something that huge in the Bad Batch, first of all, props to us for sticking through
Yeah.
the animated stuff. Like we get rewarded. That would piss off a whole bunch of people.
They just murdered somebody on the second episode. Is it really for kids?
That's a good question.
It's a great question.
It's a really good question.
Because like
I don't
I've
know.
always wondered that since the later seasons of Clone Wars,
Yeah.
which got really dark, right? Like the first few seasons are definitely like a little bit lighter. Even the first few seasons of Rebels, right? And then like that stuff gets real dark. Like the stuff in the final season of Rebels with like Kanan dying,
Yeah.
and some of the
Some of the most beautiful
some
stuff.
of the themes of grief, which are like very adult.
Yeah, I'd argue it's not for kids.
Yeah, I think Dave Filoni really.
But then there's
pushes
some
the
aspects
boundary.
where I'm like, oh my God, this is definitely for kids.
I think grief
some
could be
aspects.
addressed with kids. It's
For
straight up just murdering a dude that seems over the edge.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
Is that the first murder?
no?
No,
We've
there's definitely
seen
been
so
others.
many.
Order 66.
So many.
There's been just so many. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's it's a perspective thing.
Yeah.
You know, the ideas of war, unfortunately, while you would want to like shield that from children and people of young, that is not something that can be shielded because we have unfortunately real life wars every day, and there's this thing called the news that covers it, talks
Twitter.
about it. Twitter.
Facebook.
No.
TikTok.
Wait, here, real quick. Power rank Facebook
YouTube.
and Twitter. Which one's better than the other? Go.
I'm not on Facebook, so I can't. I have to disqualify myself.
Wait, then what Krishna am I friends with? We've been playing Sudoku for like 5 years.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding.
But you've been
It's
you've been
Benoit
catfished.
Blanc.
It's Benoit Blanc.
Could you imagine like somebody catfishes as your like sibling?
Have
Sure
you ever seen
that's
that show,
happened.
Catfish?
Catfish.
The Netflix one, right?
It's MTV.
Oh, then no, I don't think so.
Yeah, where they like it's a reality show where they go
Oh.
and help. They find people who are being catfished and they try to figure out who their catfish is.
Damn.
It normally is someone that's like close to you, like a friend or a family member,
Friend of a
or
friend.
something.
That's
Former
creepy.
roommate.
Yeah,
Either of you do that to me, and I'll kill you.
I'm gonna catfish you now as a catfish.
I'll
I'll be like, "Hello, I'm
you
fried catfish."
Have you had fried catfish? It's delicious.
Oh, so good.
Yes,
I'm so hungry right now.
Yeah, me
we
too.
all are.
Yeah.
All right,
Let's wrap this
Wrap
up.
this
Let's
up.
get this one. Let's ask the age-old question here. Arjuna, was Bad Batch Season 2, the first 2 episodes, good?
Yes, it was good. It wasn't perfect. It was definitely a little slow at times. But that's to be expected with some of these animated shows, right? It's not always like boom, boom, boom. And I think we are coming off like peak Star Wars with Andor. So I think it was always going to have a little bit of, you know, even as much as you try to separate properties, there's still in the back, you know, at least for me, I'm like, oh, like you're not consciously like being like, I want Andor, but in your subconscious, you're like,
Give me
I
Andor.
want more of that. You know?
Good. Oh, boy.
Give me more Andy Serkis.
Yes.
But yes, it was good. Krishna, was The Bad Batch Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2 good?
I'm gonna say yes. I was very on the fence with this because there were large chunks where I was just, a little bit bored.
I saw Krishna dozing off.
Yeah, those parts where I almost wanted to fall asleep, but that's partly because I'm tired. But also like the first episode and then the first half of first third or quarter of the second episode, I just felt like a little bit too like have a mission, let's go, and I didn't feel like personal stakes were too high. It's just sort of like, let's get to the stuff. And then as soon as the old guy showed up, I was like, oh, okay. Ooh,
This is interesting.
new character.
Right.
There's a little wrinkle here. There's a mystery now with this Dooku situation. I perked up. I was like, oh, okay. And then obviously the end of episode 2, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, shit. There are the stakes for the season. So, yeah. I'm going to say it was good.
So you like steak.
It sets up a lot of good stuff, I think. Hopefully. Ravi, was The Bad Batch Season 2, first 2 episodes, good?
Unfortunately, I am going to repeat everything you just said. Yes, it was good. Yes,
Ditto.
I was on the fence, and it was really when you saw Dooku's people, when you got that ending,
His
it
brother?
definitely was just kind of like, oh wow, yeah, there is something there. It's interesting. I think the only reason I wasn't falling asleep is because every scene I kept trying to analyze and point things out. Like, oh, look, there's the prototype Boba Fett helmet.
yeah. You're like, is that the V-Wing?
I'm going to say I knew it was good when the crabs flipped them off when they left.
That's
When
when I
I
was the
crabs,
I'm like,
yeah.
that's, like, I have to. I have to at this point.
Yeah.
It was just too good.
That was
It's like,
fucking
fuck
hilarious.
you.
I mean, Dave Filoni, he'll never admit it, but like his whole thing with Chopper,
Yeah.
and like it really does sound like Chopper's swearing every other beep. Fuck you. And then same with the crowds. That was clearly like, fuck off.
Speaking of the swearing and things, I don't know if you guys, this is a side tangent, but you know about the Witcher spin-off show on Netflix.
Bloodlines.
Bloodlines or whatever. Anyway, there's a line in there where they say "fuckity fuck fuck."
Nice. Wow.
So they probably got the inspiration from Chopper.
Yeah.
Because he's saying "fuckity fuck fuck."
He's like, fuck, 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 fuck. He's like, fuck, 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 fuck.
This makes for compelling content.
If you're listening to this, I apologize, but you're also welcome.
We should cut a version where we just bleep it all. Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, really hurt people's ears there
Yeah,
with those
exactly.
beeps. I'm a believer, real quick, with the beeping. You shouldn't beep. Just cut it.
You just
do
blank
dead
the
it.
audio.
Yeah, I think that's better for your.
You need the beeps.
for
The
your
beeps
ears.
are they add a layer of comedic effect for me.
I think I'm too.
Depends.
I think for like television or
Yes.
video, you bleep it. For a podcast, you
Yeah,
blank it. Because
blank
I think
it.
if you're listening to a podcast and you hear that beep, it really is
It takes you out and it hurts.
hurtful.
Well, that's why you take out the original audio track and then you keep the beep at a nice, not too loud, but just like
It's still
because
such
of,
a thing.
like the intonation of a voice when it's just like a.
Yeah, it's a hard cut.
It's hard.
Yeah,
Well,
And if it's an audio only experience, it really.
ruins it.
sounds like you need to train your ears.
Yeah.
Better.
And with that, that's going to do it for us here on the Was It Good podcast. As always, you can find our full episodes on youtube.com/wasitgood. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Was It Good Pod, and follow us on Twitter at Was It Good. It's being run by AI, so that should be fun.
And
All
our
right.
website.
On our website, wasitgood.info. Our next pod is going to be Avatar 2, The Way of Water.
The way of water.